Welcome to Access, brought to you by Crypto.com. Matthew, Lloyd and Damian Barrett with you to take a look at round 6, where unfortunately, Lordo, the dominant storyline is a sad one.
It is. It's Sam Darcy, Damo. He has the respect and admiration of every supporter in the competition. That's how good he is in his short career so far. So we're going to talk about him, and I also want to talk about the Swans. They're my premiership tip at the start of the year, and I have huge concerns now.
Yeah, also some issues too with the Suns and Giants, and we will get to all those topics and more in the next few moments. But we will start with the shattering events at Marvel Stadium last night, the Sunday fixture of Easter Sunday, and this happening late in the first quarter. Sam Darcy buckling on his left knee there, Lordo, and immediately your heart went into your mouth when you saw him dealing with it, grabbing at the knee, the emotion attached to it, to know what he's going through there, and then to see him come off the ground and to be assessed by doctors straight away, and the emotion attached to the locked off cameras in the rooms with family and the consultations with doctors, and then the news as the game unfolded from Matthew Ugle, an assistant coach, that it was most likely a season-ending ACL. This is as shattering as it gets for someone so young in the game. Game number 34, and emerging already in this fourth season of AFL life for him as a player of the future, but certainly of the now, and someone who I think, Lordo, was in the conversation for best players in the entire comp.
Yeah, there's no doubt he was the hottest player in the game with what he was doing, and it's going to take some time. Obviously, they lose their best player, who is currently playing good footy. Bontempelli obviously back last night, but also the mental side of how the rest of the crew copes with it, because they'll be in shock. You know, they handled the game really well, but there'll be a lull. We've lost Darcy, and even Luke Beveridge said we've got to change the way we play now and look at how we adjust, because so much went through Sam Darcy.
Yep. It's shattering, Lotto, in that footy sense to watch him go through that. It does have a reminder to me, and I'm sure other people have thought of this too, back in 1984, when a similarly scoped and profiled Paul Salmon had this happen to him in his second season of footy. Now, at that stage, he was playing game number 24. He kicked 63 goals in that particular season. His team that year won the grand final. He didn't play again until the next year. He did get to play in a premiership the following year. So when you see what happened to him, the parallels are there, because they were both, and in that case there, taking the game by storm in a way that we hadn't seen. And look, there's a good positive outcome to the Paul Salmon story, which is there for obviously Sam Darcy.
There is, and the positive will be for Darcy, he can work on other aspects of his game. Like, he can get big and strong. You look at Riley Thilthorpe and what he's done. So one thing they were doing to Darcy early in the game was they were triple teaming him. They were all going at Darcy in there. That's how dominant he's become. So that'll be the positive. It'll be a hard few weeks, but he's such a professional. He'll get onto his rehab, and yes, he's got still 300 games ahead of him still.
And this Sam Darcy situation brings into even stronger focus the Jamara Ugle-Hagan situation at the Bulldogs. We're going to make this today's boardroom agenda on Access for Crypto.com, and it just heightens the problems that this club has got with the attitude of Jamara Ugle-Hagan, ultimately a number one draft pick himself, who ideally should be playing football but is choosing not to for personal reasons, and we factored that in every single time. But clearly the attitude that he has displayed in recent weeks has heightened the sense of frustration at the Bulldogs, and Luke Beveridge spoke before this game on the weekend about where that's now at.
At the moment, the decision making in regards to Jamara's future and what that entails is significantly in the AFL's hands. So we're waiting on them to do certain things, and we're continually interacting with them and working through it to work out what's best for Mara. My focus is absolutely, totally on the group that's here. So whether he, as I've said in the past, sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not. If he is and he isn't, not worth talking about. If he is, he joins in and we carry on. But because he's not currently available for selection, it's not at the forefront of my mind.
Darcy injury, Damo, all the attention goes on to could Jamara now play, but those I speak to will say he'll never play a game ever again for the Western Bulldogs. He's a guy who trains sometimes and doesn't train other times. So he's not in any position to play a game of AFL football, and there's also selection integrity. So for the rest of the players who are working their backsides off and have been there every day, you can't then pluck somebody out of nowhere. So don't expect him to come. They've just got to work with Aaron Norton. Maybe Bontempelli plays forward. Can O'Donnell try and play a role? So that's where they're at. It's not going to be Jamara.
You mentioned Bontempelli. Yeah. He just reminded everyone he's still the best in the competition. It had not been seen this year because of a serious calf injury he sustained in the off-season. And to come back in, no one should take lightly what he did last night to dominate a game of footy, having had no match practice to that point of the year.
No, absolutely, Damo. And what I will say is, just from experience, the first game back is often the easiest. So not to take away from him, but he'll be sore. He'll feel like he's been hit by a truck the next week because of your first game back and getting hits. But he was too big, too strong, and exposed St Kilda's weaknesses in the midfield, that they are so far off in their midfield group. He just did enough. Look at the size and the power and the strength.
And the authority. And the way he, not that he needed to have a reason to galvanise his club, Lordo, he was already doing it before Sam Darcy went down. But the moment he went down and the moment that they realised as a club that this was a serious issue, the way they just got around each other. And he led the way as always. And the numbers that he produced himself, they were reflected in the numbers the Bulldogs produced to just destroy the Saints.
Yeah, a Ross Lyon side hasn't been belted like this ever for inside 50. So it was plus 38, 69 to 31. And that was all because of the midfield. So they dominated through the clearance, plus 11, but centre clearances, that's where you got a 6-6-6 rule, the ball can go in, and they had no answers, plus 14 in the centre clearances. And it's a good midfield now, the Western Bulldogs. That's why I'm still bullish without Sam Darcy that they can make the finals, potentially make a prelim. Maybe with
you
what
think
they've
they're
got
that
there.
good still?
Yeah, I think it's just because they've still got enough, I think, in their side. And we take a look at the vision from last night and the midfield dominance. It's what a player Fraser's become. So he's one that's one of the biggest improvers in the game. They had Richards, they had Bontempelli, they had Fraser. All of them were rotating off half back. He had weapons. Liberatore, what a game he played. So he's an inspiration like Bontempelli.
Kennedy's slotting in well.
Kennedy's slotting in, and people are asking why isn't he still at Carlton. So
and is it fair to say Riley Sanders has probably played his best game last night?
I agree. So that is the reason they are special. Tim English, he's still got to get better and improve, but it was a dominant display.
The authority with which Fraser's playing, Lordo, clearly he's got a licence to take on the game like this, which is great for a guy who's still so young.
Yeah, and he's very good, Riley West. So without Darcy, he plays above his height also, Riley West. So it was a really, really strong game last night. And Norton did get better as Darcy went off because he probably thought, now I'm the man, more ball's going to come through me. So we may see the best of Norton out of a horrible situation.
And Liberatore kicking that goal there, continuing his great form in 2025, even with Bontempelli back in it. Does Bontempelli need to go forward just to finish this conversation on the Dogs?
Yeah, I think so. I'd say 60% midfield, 40% forward now for the rest of this season.
Yep. Now, Port Adelaide has got its season back on track. A massive win against Hawthorn in Gather Round, and then another big win at the SCG against the Swans. I feel, Lordo, they've got their season back on track in a very meaningful way.
And it's off the back of their stars, so you just need your best players to play well, and that's exactly what they're doing. Connor Rozee, you can't let him do what he's doing, so he was dominant again off half-back, so someone's got to sit on him this week. I know it's North
2 weeks in a row now he's done this.
Yeah, and he's been dominant. Jason Horne-Francis, yeah, he'll have his moments where he can let you down, but what a player he's become. Pal Pepper, well, he's a very, very important player. Butters was back and had an outstanding game for Port Adelaide. So when you have your best...
And Willie Rioli on the end of it again, as he was last week.
I reckon they got it wrong early in the season. They're playing Willie as an inside mid for periods. He's not that. He's not fit enough, but he's back to his best inside that forward 50.
Now, it's a game the Swans, I would imagine, will be partially thinking what I got away from them and one that they should have won. And they failed their own system. They did not kick well at all, be either at goal, with Blakey missing some shots, McLean missing some shots late. But you want to focus on the field kicking as opposed to the goal kicking.
Yeah, they were my premiership favourites at the start of the year, and geez, I'm very nervous about that now. They've just got to try and make the 8. That's how they're playing their football. But
are you ruling out a flag?
I am. The Gordon loss, it's going to take him some time. Callum Mills out, Joel Amati out, so they're really struggling at either end. They tried McCartan forward again, which didn't work. He's a backman. Aaron Francis, he's not going to do what he did in the last quarter. Good on him, but that's once you plan for Aaron Francis, he's not going to do that. But I want to show this. This was their area of strength last year, their field kicking. For the first 14 or 15 rounds, I'm saying, what a side they are. No one can stop their penetration of kicking and their piercing.
The pinpoint.
They were like surgeons with their foot skills. That's gone off, as was their goal kicking. So the positive is they won every stat bar the goal kicking and the accuracy. So there are some positives, but their foot skills are off.
Yep. Coach speak today on Access, Lordo, is Justin Longmuir. And when it's all said and done, nothing has changed from round 1 when they got belted, the Dockers, by Geelong, to what happened on the weekend on Saturday against Melbourne. Pick the difference.
After the first 5 minutes, we weren't tough enough. Like I thought, their hunt and their pressure was at a level that we couldn't handle, and we couldn't apply the same pressure to them. Disappointed with the way we played. Yeah, didn't think we were tough enough. Didn't felt like didn't value the right things, didn't defend our front half the way we wanted to defend our front half. Would they have over 70 points at half time? It's not the team we want to be.
Use that phrase there in round 1 and again in round 6. We're not tough enough. They're not tough enough physically and they're not tough enough mentally when it comes to winning big matches or matches they should seize control of.
Yeah, love the honesty, but twice in 6 weeks, and they were hoping, and a lot thought they could be a top 4 side, potential premiership. I can understand an aspect of their game letting them down, but when they're saying you're not tough enough, I just question the mental fragility of the Fremantle Dockers.
Yep. Well, I reckon when Cozzy Pickett is on song, there is no one better in the competition. There's certainly no one better to watch. There might be some equals, but no one's better because he lit this game up and took it away from the Dockers early with some extraordinary play that only I reckon he can do.
Yeah, he's got an edge to him and he's got a killer instinct. I love the way he plays on the edge, and he does get suspended from time to time, but that's because he's so tough and ruthless. But 24 disposals, 5 goals too. I've said all year, and I'm not saying it now, he's their most important player, and he is. The difference he makes, he's a better kick than just about every midfielder in the team. He has more damage than every midfielder in that team, despite how good they are, and he can go forward and kick 5, which not many players in the game can do.
And the regular balance of conversation, midfield versus forward time, how do you see it and what should happen?
Yeah, I think he's an explosive, just power type midfielder. So he goes in the centre bounces, but doesn't play more, then just drifts forward. That's how they use him best.
Now, they brought the ball in differently on this game, it must be said. They needed to because it wasn't working in the first 5 weeks. What did you like most and what do you want to highlight here?
Well, I love that the statement he made, firstly. Fritsch, I think, lasted 1 week too many in terms of, because he wasn't predictable to his team. So they became predictable again. Well done to Petty. I've been disappointed in Petty over many years where he can be fragile himself, but he straightened them up. He had
there was a presence
about him, which is really strong. And they moved the ball far better and more direct and lowered their eyes.
And it was Windsor and Langford doing a lot of that. It wasn't the old crew, and we still see the old crew. One of the players there is an old crew member in Petrarca getting it, but it was the youth, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, Damo. And also Max Gawn. What a game he played in the centre bounce, which is the numbers I like there where it started.
Let's take a look, Lordo, because they had to make a massive change. They were okay against GWS in the first game of the season, but beyond that, they were terrible. And this is what round 6 looked like them. And when you look at that, Lordo, and again, there's the basic numbers, the basic metrics, but what do you like most?
Well, the clearance. So they've been dominant through the clearance with, Max Gawn's hits, but they were getting nothing for it. So to get some advantage out of that is dominant. And to kick 12 goals in the first half and kick over 100 points, that would be so joyous for the Melbourne fans who don't see their team score too much. Well, for closing doors, Damon, we're going to move on to the Gold Coast Suns. And you said this during the week leading up to round 6 in your sliding doors column. But for our closing doors this morning, it's about the Gold Coast Suns. And you said, I've been a doubter with the Suns for 14 years.
Yep.
But in their 15th season, I'm into believer status. And then they've just served that up against Richmond.
Lordo, I'm backdowning them. They let me down. The Dockers let me down. The Suns let me down. And they let themselves down, didn't they? It must be said. Because they had a chance. They fought it out. It must be said that. But ultimately, they just left themselves with too much work to do against a very, very good Richmond team.
Yeah, they were out-hunted. The thing we've liked about the Suns is they've played tough. And they've been believable. I'm with you. I would have been 100% with you what you said during the week, but they were 7 goals down at three-quarter time. They've got questions to be answered.
And this happened against North Melbourne the previous week too for the Suns.
Their forward line was a mess. So between Jed Walter, King, and Reid, too tall. So
one
he's
has
got
to
some
go.
decisions to make. They didn't use the ball very well. They just belted it in there, so their ball use was really poor. And I love the way the Tigers attacked.
I love this game from Richmond, Lotto. To think that they've now got 2 wins. Look at Seth Campbell here. He just runs all day. And he provided the spark in that first win against Carlton. He provided the spark in this second win in round 6 against the Suns. 2 good scalps in a year in which they're clearly building for the future. And look who's on the end of this chain of events here. The man with as much presence as anyone out there at the moment, Sam Lawler, in his first year.
But how good were their senior players?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I thought Nick Floston's game was extraordinary. I love the game of Short, Taranto, Hopper. Ross stood up, didn't he? Nankervis, the ruckman.
Yeah, and another player who stood up was Noah Bolter, but you're pretty strong on your thoughts on him playing.
Yeah, I am. Let's look at the footy first, because if he, in my eyes, Lordo, didn't play on the weekend, they're not winning that game of footy. He made some mistakes, but he was first up. And we talk about Marcus Bontempelli having an impact first up. He had an equally big impact in the context of this club, in this game and this win. But that's the footy side of it. I don't back away from what I said, Lotto. He's about to be sentenced in a New South Wales court tomorrow for serious assault, and I just felt that this game of footy should have not been one that he played in with that decision about to be made, and that's going to be a big story regardless of the official sanction that is released tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Damo. I couldn't agree more. The round 6 learnings, Damo, I'll kick us off in the round 6 learnings, and every base covered. Collingwood, defensively and offensively, they are the best side in the competition and have been since that round 0 loss to the Giants, so they are in great form, may well be premiership favourites soon. Brisbane, the loss they needed, so they were getting comfortable.
You're big on this. You almost predicted that loss.
Yeah, winning in a certain way. So I think this will sharpen the needle for the Brisbane Lions, and they'll play much better.
What do you mean by this? Bring your mouth guards. Is that the last resort for North?
Soft. They were absolutely soft, and they coughed up 5 goals through their midfield. So I'm putting Sherry, Jai Simpkin, Luke Davies-Uniacke, who should be their best players, who've been around a long time. Pathetic they were.
There's a worrying number attached to North Melbourne. They've conceded now 240 points in the past 3 matches after half-time. Just do the raw maths on that. 80 points per match against Sydney, Gold Coast and Carlton in the second halves of those games.
Hey, Damo, there was kids playing for Carlton in that last quarter, like White, the guy that came off the interchange as a substitute. They had sort of Durden and these guys. They just kept... they were queuing up. Motlop kicked 3 goals in the last quarter, so they kicked 9 goals. Like, they were witches' hats in that last quarter, North Melbourne. The last one, don't lose your offensive flair, the Adelaide Crows. So I think he's been disappointed with how many points they've been leaking. Yes, they won the game, but I think it's one of their strengths. So they've just got to get the balance right. The
Blues, well done, really well done. I mean that sincerely, against West Coast and North Melbourne. Let's see it against the Cats. The goal, Essendon team, Lotto, 37-year-old. Todd Goldstein. He turns 37 in July, and he's going to take over now with Draper and Bryan going down. And there's some issues going on at West Coast, Lordo. The captain is one of those issues, was rested out of the game on the weekend. They lost it by a kick, and you would have liked to have thought he might have been worth a kick in a result that should have gone their way.
Yeah, hopefully he can turn things around, Oscar Allen, for the rest of his season.
Yep. Now, Crypto.com bold call, as always, Lordo, it's over to you.
My bold call is how toothless the Giants were without Jesse Hogan. So the moment he withdrew, they just did not look like scoring. They could hardly score all day, and just without him, they're just nothing in that forward line. So have they become more reliant on one man than any other player in the competition? I think Max Gawn fits in that category at Melbourne. But next up, I'd say it's this Jesse Hogan. So Callum Brown, he comes in and out for a reason. He's just probably not there as a forward. Jake Riccardi comes in and out for a reason. Jake Stringer's onto his 3rd club. You can't really trust Jake Stringer. And Aaron Cadman has not been the #1 draft pick you would have hoped he'd be. And here's the numbers. So they don't score more than a goal a game, any of them. Marks, no more than 4 a game. And that marks inside 50, they don't have a presence there. So it's a doubt for a premiership favourite when Jesse Hogan doesn't play.
Well, today we're introducing the Crypto.com Gauntlet. It's a stay alive competition. You get to tip a team each week, and if your team wins, you get to be alive in the next round of football. And I'm going to kick it off, Lordo. I'm picking Collingwood to beat your mob, Essendon on Anzac Day. And what are you going for?
Dangerous pick by you, and I want to last longer than a week. So I've got Hawthorn beating the West Coast Eagles at Marvel, which surely is a certainty.
That is so you, Lordo, taking the easy option when it comes to your tips. Hey, thanks for watching Access for Crypto.com, and we'll be back next Monday.